Throughout the 1930s and 40s, Bradman was the world's master cricketer, so far ahead of the rest that comparisons became almost pointless. In 1930, he scored 974 runs in the series, 309 of them in a single extraordinary day at Hedley. And across 7 Test series against England, he remained a figure of utter dominance. Australia lost the Ashes only once, in 1932-33, when England, so unsettled by Bradman, devised a method of bowling, Bodyline, a tactic history has judged as brutal and unfair, introduced simply to contain him. And even then, he averaged 56 in the series.
And he's armed on Bradman. Now I ask you, is he any good?
One of the most surprising facts about him was revealed in an interview by former Aussie speedster Jeff Thomson. When Jeff Thomson was asked about the greatest batsman he ever faced against, former lightning fast bowler Jeff Thomson says the most outstanding batsman he bowled to was not Viv Richards, Greg Chappell or David Gower. He gave a surprising answer by naming Don Bradman. He mentioned Don Bradman though he had only faced against the great man when he was nearly 70. He described the incident as, Bradman had nothing but a bat, no protector, no pads or anything on a green turf wicket. I thought, good luck old man, you will be dead shortly. He described the incident as, on a rest day during the Indian tour in 1977 to 1978, Don Bradman was around in the nets. I was bowling only leg spin to him, but he had a couple of young blokes trying to get him out. With no pads, no nothing. For a 68-year-old, he belted the hell out of them on a turf wicket, and he hadn't batted for 20 years. I went back in and said, why isn't this fellow playing with us tomorrow? That's how good I thought he was. The great Richie Benaud, who saw Don Bradman and many other greats in action, was once asked this question.
But you would have seen
But
him.
I've seen him play, or I had seen him play, and he was, I'm assured, by everyone who played with and against him, easily the best. Don't even put anyone up in the bracket there. He was far and away the best.
Many greats, Alan Davidson and Richie Benaud among them, have often remarked that his most striking attribute was his footwork. Yet Don himself would insist that his success owed far more to his powers of concentration.
Absolutely correct in a technical sense.
Bradman himself believed that among his contemporaries, there were batsmen just as gifted as he was. Men who possessed immense talent, but not always the unwavering concentration that defined his greatness. Stan McCabe was certainly one of them, a batsman who seemed to need a challenge to truly come alive. But when he did, he was magnificent. And nowhere was that brilliance more evident than at Trent Bridge in 1938, when McCabe produced a breathtaking 232, an innings of audacity, of elegance, and fearless stroke play. So extraordinary that even the great Don Bradman could only watch in admiration and confess, I wish I could bat like that. When analysing cross-era dominance, statisticians often turn to one measure above all: standard deviation. A way of understanding just how far ahead a player stands from the average of his own time. In the 52 tests he played, Don Bradman scored more than 25% of his team's runs, 6,996 out of 27,624. He accounted for more than 41% of the centuries. 29 out of 70. And perhaps most astonishing of all, he averaged more than 3 times the combined average of the other batsmen. It can safely be said, there will never be another quite like him again.
To be absolutely correct in a technical sense, the bat should be a little closer to the leg, but you will see quite clearly the fundamentals of playing straight and well forward towards the
Now
pitch
look
of
at the
ball.
other batters playing in those exact same matches. Facing the same bowlers on the same uncovered, often sticky pitches under the exact same match pressure, the rest of the batters averaged just 31.21. They weren't scoring freely, batting was incredibly difficult. It took the combined efforts of dozens of other international players to scrape together 41 centuries in those matches, while Bradman casually peeled off 29 by himself. When international cricket finally resumed in 1946, Bradman was pushing 40. Other pre-war greats like Walter Hammond and George Hedley completely lost their touch under the physical strain of aging. Yet, look at his post-1946 numbers. Under the immense pressure of captaining a recovering nation, Bradman played 15 tests and scored 1,903 runs. His average didn't drop, it actually went up to an astonishing 105.72. Before World War II, Bradman was an explosive stroke maker who could casually smash 300 runs in a single day. But post-war, he was a completely different beast. Pushing 40 and battling chronic muscle spasms, Bradman physically couldn't play his old attacking game. So, he reprogrammed himself. He cut out the risky shots, grounded the ball, and turned into a ruthless, risk-averse accumulator. His body was failing, but his appetite for runs actually grew. To understand how crazy that is, look at the absolute best contemporary batter of that era, England's Sir Len Hutton. Hutton was a master of technique who had to rebuild his entire batting stance after a brutal war injury. Playing under immense pressure on sticky, uncovered pitches, Hutton still managed an elite career average of 56.67. Hutton was a genius, easily the greatest mortal batsman in the world at that time. But even a compromised, aging Bradman was scoring almost exactly double that. He didn't just beat his contemporaries, he mathematically lapped them.
When we asked him in today's era, what would you have averaged? He said, yeah, around about 70. He said, why, Sir Don? Why do you think 70? He said, I'm 90 today, so that's not bad for a 90-year-old man.
Goodness, pull shot must have been devastating.
Yeah. I like the bat speed.
Yeah.
How then did anyone ever prize him out? On occasion, it required something unusual. 2 bowlers managed it more often than most. Grimmett and Hedley Verity, both spinners of rare control and subtlety. Their flatter trajectories perhaps denied him the freedom to advance, to play that commanding drive he so relished. Even so, success came at a price, and never in abundance. Others too had their moments. Bill O'Reilly, the fierce wrist spinner, earned Bradman's own admission as the finest he faced. High praise from a man who rarely yielded any. There was, of course, Bodyline, Douglas Jardine's infamous stratagem in 1932-33. It unsettled him, yes, but even then Bradman averaged 56.57. Discomfort, in his case, was still dominance by any ordinary measure. If a flaw must be found, it lies perhaps in circumstance rather than skill. The treacherous, sticky wickets, those unpredictable surfaces after rain, never witnessed a defining Bradman innings when it mattered most. Not that he lacked the ability, only the occasion. And so, we are left with the overwhelming truth. Across conditions, across continents, against every conceivable challenge, his supremacy endured. Not merely a great cricketer, but a standard unto himself. Sir Donald Bradman, beyond comparison, beyond imitation, and, perhaps, beyond understanding.